Thank you so much for taking my call. And I have a question that actually embarrasses me. But I was talking to someone recently, and we were having a slight disagreement, I believe, in a pre-trib rapture. And the other person didn't feel like there was anything of a rapture, that we'd be here for all of it. And well, I told him, I said, well, I guess we could agree. You'd probably hope I'm right. But you know what? I just went blank in the moment, and I could not bring to mind the appropriate verses to share with this person. And I'm being lazy. I'm asking y'all, what would be a good way to approach this in the future?
Okay. I believe Revelation 3, the latter part of that, because they talk to the seven churches, and after the seventh church, the word church is not mentioned the rest of the book of Revelation during the judgment. And I think 1 Thessalonians would also be a passage, Alex, that would be helpful to you.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, I mean, this is one of the classic passages about the rapture of the church. And, you know, very famously, and it says, the voice of the archangel, the trumpet of God, we will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord. Now, let me give you another passage about the return of Christ, because Matthew 24, 30 and 31 says, then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. He will send his angels with a loud trumpet call that will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. That sounds a lot like 1 Thessalonians 4. What's interesting is there are people that believe we'll be caught up together in the clouds, and then there are people that don't believe we'll be caught up in the clouds, and I really don't see how you can get around 1 Thessalonians 4, 13 through 18, because, I mean, this is clearly Christ coming for his own, catching us up in the clouds. I've got friends, and they'll say, well, Christ is coming back, and instantly the earth will be brought under the subjection of the Lord. But Bert, when you read that Revelation 4 through 20, it's worldwide persecution, chaos, the reign of the Antichrist. You're right, the church is not mentioned, and it definitely seems to be something in the future, not the past. And so I'll put it this way, and we'll move on. I'm not going to break fellowship with pre-tribulational rapture people. We're all brothers and sisters in Christ. But, Bert, I just think all these scriptures, and even many more, make a pretty compelling case for what we would call rapture, tribulation, Armageddon, return, millennium, new heavens and new earth. That's the sequential order that I get.
I do as well. And let me just say, those that want to take Revelation talking about the Roman persecution that took place, and then listen, persecution has been around and it's around right now. It is horrible in Nigeria. It is getting more difficult in India. It is horrible in North Korea. But as Alex said, it seems like when you read Revelation, it's not just in a region, it is worldwide. And that's a big issue, Alex. But there are people under tribulation right now, and we don't need to deny that either. So we pray for them, and we ask God, give them what they need to stand. And if we come under that difficulty and those hardship before he comes back to rapture the church, we want people praying for us that we will stand. So, Sharon, thank you. Hope that helps. Let's go to Virginia and talk to Lorraine. Lorraine, you're a first-time caller?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm glad you got through. Yes. Thank you for calling.
Well, I just praise God for your ministry. I think the study of the Bible and understanding it is so important, so we know him better and love him more.
So my question is relating to, I think they said something you discussed, but I didn't hear it. I didn't listen that day. But it's regarding the Nephilim. I think that's how you might pronounce it, from Genesis 6.
Yes.
My question is this. When I read the plain text, it says the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and then they were fair and they took them. I see nothing about demonic interaction between them. And forgive me for saying this, but many great preachers that I love, I don't understand where they're getting it. Isn't it injecting something into the text that is not there?
Thank you, Lorraine. They skip down to verse 4 and talks about giants being on the earth in those days. And I understand that, and some people said it's a difficult passage to translate out of the Hebrew and understand. But let me tell you what I do, and Alex, you disagree if you desire. When I read chapter 5 and I see this list of people who are the sons of God, many of them went the way of God, some went the way of the earth, and the daughters of men. And then when I think about Samson, how his eyes betrayed him when he would leave the godly women of the Hebrews and look and lust upon those of the Gentile world at that time who were dressing provocatively and being all things, his eyes wandered. I come down on the side that these are real people, not a hybrid, demonic. That's my take on it.
Ma'am, you phrased it perfectly. You really did. That you said people inject meaning onto the text. And I'm going to throw a couple of words. We've already been fairly academic this hour, so let's keep going. Exegesis, everybody's heard that. Somebody is exegeting the text, and the Greek prefix ex means out of, to bring out of. There's another Greek prefix, eis, E-I-S, not frozen water. That would be I-C-E. But to be eisegetical, and we don't want to be this, but eisegesis is to impose something on the text that really isn't there. And I know a lot of people, if you read the King James Bible, and I love the King James, but Genesis 6, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it says that the sons of God, well, really 1 through 6, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were very fair, and there were giants in the land these days. And you think sons of God, because there are scriptures where the angels and demons are called sons of God. But if you read in the Hebrew, and this is why I think the Nephilim, the giants of Genesis 6:4, are carnal men from the line of Seth. That's what they are. Because it says in the Hebrew, in Genesis 6:1, men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to these men. And then in verse 2, in the Hebrew, it says, the men saw the daughters of men. So men that were the sons of the other men saw the daughters. So Bert, I'm with you. I know there were giants in the land, and we know giants are possible. I mean, there have been people, 8, nearly 9 feet tall people. So giants in terms of physical stature, but I just don't see in the text that they were hybrid spiritual demon people.
I agree. And again, just like we was talking about the pre-trib and all of that, do not split over that. Don't split over this either. I think they are looking to it, but I disagree as well. Well, Alex, we got 3 more people. We're going to try to get them all in.
We'll get them.
Let's do it. Let's go to Kent in Virginia. Kent, welcome.
Thank you for taking my call. Yeah, I work in a diverse environment with a lot of Muslims, and I'm curious about the best way to share the good news with them.
Amen. Thank you, Kent. Praise God for desiring to do so. I do a program on the weekend called Exploring Missions. My co-host is my son, Nathan. And Nathan spent 5 years in a deeply saturated Muslim community, diverse community, over close to Atlanta, Georgia. And he really helped me to understand a lot of the Muslims, now some of them, Many of the Muslims are Muslims in names only. Now, let me put it parallel like from Northeast Mississippi. They're Baptist in name only, because we are a big group down here in Northeast Mississippi. Take the Baptist out of Mississippi, it would be a very big decline. And so know these Muslims that they are not grounded in the Muslims. So you make much of Jesus, and you try, and everything is centered on Jesus Christ. It really is. And God will prepare those people. I want to just tell you, and Alex, go ahead and share what you would share.
God bless you. We've been very blessed to know a lot of former Muslims. I think of Kamal Salim, and I think of Abdu Murray, and of course, the late great Nabil Qureshi, who was a medical doctor and got saved. And oh my goodness, God is doing a great work among Muslims. But let me just give 2 tips. Stay in the Gospels. And I think it's very, very important to try to individually minister. Make friends and ask if you can read the Gospels together. But here's the other thing, though. The big ones are going to be the authority of the New Testament, the identity of Jesus, and then the Trinity. That's going to be huge. And keep it personal. I led a Muslim man to Christ, baptized him not too many years ago, and he would say, well, Islam teaches. I would say, but what do you say? What do you say? There's a lot more we could say about this, but when you keep it one-on-one, focus on the Gospels and Jesus, the Spirit of God will begin to work. Don't you agree, Bert?
Relationship is vital. I'll just tell you that. The trust factor in them seeing Christ in you, it still works. It still works. Let's go to Ohio and talk to Katie. Welcome, Katie.
Hello there. It's a wonderful pleasure to be talking with you. You guide me home so many days from work, and I'm so grateful to learn as I drive.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. My question today is about the difference between disciples, apostles, and who wrote the epistles.
Okay, great. Man, we need to mark this day down and just replay this sometime, guys. Seriously, such great questions. We went over this a little bit. A disciple means a follower or learner of Christ. This incorporates the large group, the very large group, 500 men and women, and could have even been some children. I believe with all my heart that boy that gave his loaves and fishes would become a follower of Christ, therefore a disciple. I believe Jairus' daughter, who was raised from the dead, when she heard what Jesus said, now this is just me thinking, so that is disciple, a follower of Christ, a learner. But an apostle was those that were sent out. That's what it means, sent out from God. And if we have modern day apostles, more than anything else, Alex, it's not somebody with special power. It is missionaries going to those areas, because 11 out of the 12, they went all around the world carrying the gospel, didn't they?
Well, they really did. And, we had always heard that, the apostles were ones who had seen the risen Jesus. I mean, Paul defended his apostleship. He would say, have I not seen the Lord? And of course he had. So every Christian is a disciple, but not every disciple was an apostle. Would you agree with that?
I agree with it fully. And what happened, you can put those that wrote the epistles, they were connected with or were apostles. They really were. Paul wrote most of them. Then John, look how many John wrote, Jude and James, the brothers of Jesus. Yes. And so you would put those in those categories, and the apostles, and even the Gospels that way.
And I'll say this quickly because I know we have one more call. There are what are called the Pauline epistles and then the general epistles. Now, the Pauline epistles are the ones that were written by Paul, like Romans, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians. The others, you've got Hebrews that we really don't know exactly who wrote Hebrews, but I wonder if it was Luke and Apollos. But James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. We got Paul's epistles, and an epistle is a letter. Yeah. So these were letters to real Christians and real churches, weren't they?
They were. Let's get Tony in real quickly. Tony, don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to get to your question. Go right ahead.
Okay, quickly. when I was in Jerusalem last year, I saw in a church it says ecclesia. And when I asked about what's an ecclesia, I was told that originally ecclesia was in the Bible and then it was taken out years later and replaced with church. Is that true or not?
Okay, let me say ecclesia is the word that you look at. Ecclesia, it means assembly. It is used for a group of followers of Christ, but it's also used, Alex, for an assembly like in a town where they assemble themselves. And it was an assembly, and church came, it changed over to church. Church is not it's not a bad translation. Go ahead.
Right, and really the ancient, English Gaelic word was kirk, K-I-R-K-E.
That was it.
But in the English, it's the word church. In the original Greek, it's the word ekklesia, and it means the called out ones. There's a lot of places where it appears in the New Testament. Maybe, I'm looking here, maybe 4 or 5 dozen times, like Acts 19:13, the assembly of the people.
Yeah.
Well, that's the ecclesia, isn't it, Bert?
It really is. And so the assembly, speaking of assembly, let's do that Sunday, Alex. Isn't that a good idea?
Because Hebrews 10:25 says that we are to assemble ourselves together. So, folks, be in church on Sunday. Maybe invite somebody to church. Bring somebody under the sound of the gospel. Tell somebody about exploring the Word. Most of all, tell everybody about Jesus.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG, Greenville, Dallas. Tons of apps on your phone. But do you have the AFR app?
Well, I don't think I can download it.
No worries. The AFR app is available not only for Apple and Android users, but also on Amazon Alexa and Roku.
But I only want to listen to music, and
The new music option allows you to stream music anytime you want.
I'm downloading it now.
Download the AFR app today at afr.net. This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Robert Gordon. A strike yesterday by a suspected Iranian-made drone killed a U.S. contractor and wounded at least 6 other Americans in northeast Syria. U.S. forces retaliated with airstrikes on sites in Syria used by groups affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the Pentagon said. Activists said the U.S. bombing killed at least 4 people. While it's not the first time the U.S. and Iran have traded strikes in Syria, the attack and the U.S. response threatened to upend recent efforts to de-escalate tensions across the wider Middle East. A senior Army strategist and Pentagon advisor said the Biden administration needs to articulate clearly what the U.S. is trying to accomplish in war-torn Syria. AFN's Jack Boning has more.
Iranian proxy forces launched a barrage of rockets at a U.S. base in northeastern Syria Friday. What a defense official says was retaliation to the U.S. airstrikes conducted against groups affiliated with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. President Biden ordered a series of retaliatory strikes in response to a suspected Iranian-made drone that killed a U.S. contractor and wounded 6 other Americans on Thursday. Bob McKinney is Senior Fellow for National Security at the Family Research Council and author of Kings of the East. He says we really don't have a large presence in Syria.
We're only talking, first of all, a very small footprint, a couple hundred at the most. And the numbers probably are classified anyway. And what they are doing, they're working with Kurds mostly and trying to push back against Damascus, which, of course, wants to dominate everybody, as well as to keep ISIS from reemerging, which, quite frankly, probably will happen if we're not careful.
McKinney says the Biden Pentagon needs to articulate what we want to accomplish in Syria.
It's a war-torn country, and it has been for a long time. And so the arguments that we should have less of a footprint, if any, in the country, but tell me what our national interests are in the region. And unfortunately, I haven't seen anybody articulate that yet. So maybe we shouldn't have forces, but we need the administration to articulate clearly what it is that we're trying to accomplish, and then we should allocate resources accordingly.
I'm Chad Groening.
Kentucky's Democrat governor vetoed a sweeping Republican measure that would ban minors' access to gender manipulation and restrict the bathrooms that transgender students could use at school. Governor Andy Beshear said in his veto message today that the bill would increase youth suicides. It cleared the GOP-led legislature by veto-proof margins. Lawmakers will reconvene next week for the final 2 days of this year's session when they could vote to override the veto. Visit afn.net for more. The House of Representatives passed GOP-sponsored legislation aimed at providing parents with more information about their children's education, known as the Parents' Bill of Rights. House Minority Leader and New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries reacted to the bill, saying it will have a negative influence on students.
Rather than actually invest in empowering parents, making sure parents have the opportunity to be engaged and involved in the education of their children, the extreme MAGA Republicans want to jam their right-wing ideology down the throats of students.
The Parents' Bill of Rights would require public school districts to publicly post information about curricula for students, including providing parents with a list of books and reading materials available in school libraries. Republicans have argued it's about providing transparency. Tiffany Justice, co-founder of Moms for Liberty, likes the Parents' Bill of Rights.
I think that every time elected representatives are speaking about parental rights and about education, it's a win for Americans. And I hope that the Senate will take it up. This is an issue that is not partisan. We should be able to come together around parental rights.
More on this story at afn.net. There is a moderate risk of severe storms across parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and southwest Tennessee today and tonight. Here's WMC's Aaron Thomas on the threats to West Tennessee.
High winds, heavy rain, and tornadoes. Those will all be possible.
The South experiences a lot of nighttime storms and tornadoes. Monitor local forecasts for details. And that is a wrap on news this hour. We appreciate your listening. See afn.net for more. For American Family News, I'm Robert Gordon.
Too busy to catch your favorite shows on the radio? Have no fear, because the AFR app is here. Download the app to have access to live broadcast, music streaming, as well as each podcast. Whether you're at work, at home, or on the go, it's easy to listen to AFR. The AFR app is available not only for Apple and Android users, but also on Amazon Alexa and Roku. Download the AFR app today at afr.net. From the heart of our nation's capital, here's Family Research Council President Tony Perkins.
Welcome to Washington Watch. It's an honor to have you joining us this evening. I'm Jody Heiss, a special advisor to the president here at the Family Research Council, and I'm honored to be filling in for Tony on each Friday. And again, we welcome you on board. Coming up on this edition of Washington Watch, it has been a very busy week on Capitol Hill, including today as House Republicans passed the Parents' Bill of Rights this morning.
Today was a win for every mother, every father, but most importantly, for every student in America. You have a Parents' Bill of Rights now.
That was House Speaker Kevin McCarthy earlier today. But of course, as you can well imagine, the Democrats had a different take on the legislation today.
Today, extreme MAGA Republicans passed a bill that puts politics over parents and will ban books, censor librarians, and bully children. It's shameful.
Wow, that was House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries. Democrats insist that this bill is not going to go anywhere in the Senate. But coming as it does on the heels of the Biden administration seeking to paint concerned parents as domestic terrorists.
Wait, right back.
bit of it. But if by chance you miss any portion of today's program, you can rest assured that you can catch it by going to our website, tonyperkins.com. You'll also find there details and action items on the website, so be sure to check it out later. Again, that's tonyperkins.com. And before we jump into our first topic, let me just say this again. We've been talking this week about hostility against churches and Christian ministries, no question. Such hostility is on the rise all across America. We're seeing people of faith who are facing censorship, that are being marginalized, even punished. So, friends, please make no mistake, our faith is under fire. And so as a result, earlier this week, we announced a chance to triple your impact with a triple match of giving up to $100,000. And listen, great news. So many of you have responded that we have met that initial goal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I'm going to ask you, this is the last day that we're pushing this. And so I'm asking you again, to help us go even further, you can give a gift right now and accelerate both your and our efforts to ensure that Christians and churches don't stand alone. So to give, to be a part of this, simply text the word faith to 67742. All right, the House Republicans passed today, this morning, the Parents' Bill of Rights, a sweeping set of common sense measures that basically ensure that parents have a voice in their children's education. That's common sense, absolutely. Democrats in the Senate insist that this bill is not going to see the light of day, but at least the legislation is going to keep pressure on the left, and it will remind voters which party prioritizes education instead of indoctrination. And President Biden also continues his attack on Republican lawmakers even today, as the debate over the debt ceiling shows, frankly, no sign of a conclusion anytime soon. Well, joining me to discuss these topics and more is U.S. Representative Randy Weber. He serves on the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, as well as the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. He represents the 14th Congressional District of Texas. Congressman Weber, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you, Jody. Appreciate y'all having us on. Appreciate what y'all do.
Well, it's great to have you. And I must say, Randy and I, we used to be in a Bible study together when I was in Congress. And a lot of times it met in my office, sometimes in his. But every time, Randy Weber would always make breakfast. He can make a mean breakfast, an awesome cook. I miss it a great deal. But Randy, great to see you again.
We miss you.
All right, listen. Thank you. I got a lot to cover with you, but first, congratulations to you and the GOP for passing the Parents' Bill of Rights in the House. Give me your initial thoughts on this bill.
Well, you hit it early on. It's driving the left crazy, and we want Americans to know that we are standing up for our children. This has gone on way too long, and to believe, and what President Trump said about the swamp. Some weaponized agencies, if you will, and there was some of the FBI even that went after President Trump early on at the top echelon. But when their agents start depicting parents as domestic terrorists, what have we come to? This bill, and thank God that Republicans are back in control. Thank God that Kevin McCarthy is leading us. He made promises, and he's keeping those promises. In fact, I think you talked about a record number of hearings. We are back to regular order. One of the first things we wanted to tackle was the fact that parents had lost control of their kids' education, and that's what we're doing.
Well, listen, on behalf of FRC and people all across America, thank you. Yeah, 42 hearings yesterday, the most ever in a single day. And so let me just say thank you to you and all of Congress for doing your job and for keeping the heat on and doing what you're supposed to do. But Randy, a few moments ago, I played a clip as we were introducing the program today of House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries claiming that this bill, the Parents' Bill of Rights, is somehow going to ban books and censor librarians and bully children. I want to play one more clip and get your response to this.
They voted to support the banning of books. And in our view, in our estimation, that includes the banning of books on the Holocaust, on the Civil Rights Movement, on slavery, on women's history, on Native American history, on the LGBTQ journey, on Latino history, on Asian American history, and as it relates to baseball. Books related to Roberto Clemente.
Unbelievable. Give me your response to that.
And he also said the MAGA Republicans. Jody, it's unbelievable. It's the old bait and switch game. You know, they're trying to say that we're going to ban certain historical books. They know that we're after all this sexual training and deviance and deviations, transgenderism and all that stuff. We don't want our kids taught that, number one. Number two, anything they teach that's going to be suspect or questionable, Brittany Gale, my bride, taught fourth grade 27 years. Every parent has the right to know what's being taught in any kind of curriculum. And the Democrats absolutely hate that. They have an agenda. They're pushing it. It's going to destroy our country if people don't wake up. We're waking up, so thank you for that realization, because this has to stop.
It does have to stop, and it is common sense. I would dare say, Congressman, that Hakeem Jeffries would not even read from the House floor some of the things that our children are being faced with in schools. It's so vile, the many examples. But if I can, I want to switch gears with you real quickly. As a member of the Energy and Commerce, the president, with this whole debt ceiling and budget debate, the president continues to claim that Republicans are using this whole budget debate to eliminate people's health care. Why in the world does he continue pushing this false narrative?
Well, again, it's the old bait and switch. In other words, he absolutely knows that we're not after people's health care. We're not after Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We want, and he's saying, no, you should only do a clean debt ceiling increase. He's trying to buy time. He's trying to run the clock out on us until September the 30th, hoping that'll pressure us to vote for it. Kevin McCarthy has kept his leader, Speaker McCarthy has kept his word. The Republican GOP has been right on this. And we're saying, look, 8 times since 1985, debt ceiling increases have been tied to spending reductions. How about that? So we'd like to get some bang for our buck. We'd like to cut spending. We'll do the things we need to do, but we can't keep going on like we are. And Biden and others, like Hakeem Jeffries, you hit the nail on it. It's the old bait and switch. They try to make it seem like it's something it's not. Americans are too smart for that.
Yeah, and the president's budget, I'm sure you know a whole lot more than I do with this on the roles that you play, but his budget has like $3 trillion of new taxes in it. And it is so packed with left-wing agenda items, and yet somehow they claim there's no cuts anywhere to be found in this. It's just absolute absurdity.
He was quoted in Canada today. He spoke and said that the United States was the leader in precious minerals refining. And I'm thinking, what is he drinking? My gosh, where does he get these statistics? He's trying to pull a fast one. He's trying to run out the clock. Jody, if you watch, and I know you did, if you remember when he first got elected, a $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill, he had the audacity to stand up for the American people in the camera and say it's the largest bill in history for infrastructure, but it won't cost Americans any more money. And I'm like, who do you think pays for this, Mr. President? It's unbelievable.
It really is, and we've only got about 15 seconds, but is this thing going to drag out all the way this September, you think, or are you going to be able to break through more quickly?
Speaker McCarthy has been pressuring him, saying, look, you got to get this done. We're not going to let the Senate run the clock out on us either, Jody. We've made that promise that they can't just jam us with bills. You know how they do that, having been there.
Absolutely.
The president may try, but we're not going to let him do it.
Randy Weber, Texas, thank you so much for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thank you, Jody. Love what y'all do.
Thank you. All right, friends, coming up, TikTok CEO was on the hot seat yesterday. We'll cover that right after this break. Stay tuned.
Today, moral relativism and political correctness are assaulting truth. How can the world have hope when believers themselves aren't clear on the authority of the Bible?
The Church of Jesus Christ always faces a tremendous temptation to deviate from the Word of God.
The God who speaks clearly expresses God's intent in giving us His Word and the response that is demanded of those who hear.
Nobody ever encounters God and says, that was boring and irrelevant. When people say that about the Bible, it just says to me they've not encountered the God of the Bible.
Our faith is rooted in history, and consequently we need to use the evidence and never be afraid of it.
The God Who Speaks is a feature-length documentary from the American Family Association, which could bolster your confidence in the Word of God.
Churches really need to see this, really need to understand what the Bible actually is.
Available now at thegodwhospeaks.org.
Here's a moment of hope for your home with Jerry and Becky Drace.
Friends are an important part of growing up. Invariably, your children will want to spend time at a friend's house. So it is important, parents, that you not only get to know your children's friends, but their parents as well. Listen to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14.
Do not be unequally yoked to unbelievers.
Yoked. That means to be attached to. It is dangerous when your child attaches to anyone who is an unbeliever. Your child can have lots of friends, but their closest friends need to be like-minded and come from stable homes where the Bible is taught and lived out as best as possible.
When your children talk to you about their friends, listen carefully. The first place to find good friends is in a church. Many sports organizations also are founded on Christian principles, so that's another good place to find a friend. Being an involved parent in the lives of your children is vitally important.
Learn more at hopeforthehome.org.
In a world where no one can tell us no.
To this day, every human being born on this planet is the product of a male and a female. That's the way God set it up. God created us in His image.
A place where Facebook and YouTube have no control.
I think the command in Scripture relative to men and women is not mainly women sit down, but men stand up, act like men, lead as you're supposed to.
A place where we can no longer be canceled.
When the Scripture speaks, God speaks. And if you understand that rightly, then everything else simply falls into place.
The American Family Association presents the AFA streaming platform. Just visit streaming.afa.net for the latest films, documentaries, and AFA original productions. You'll even find videos from some of your favorite talk shows. All you have to do is create a free account at streaming.afa.net.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. An honor to be with you. I'm Jody Heiss, your host. All right, members of the House Energy and Commerce Committee yesterday literally grilled TikTok CEO Shou Chew for some 6 hours. They questioned everything from his company's relationship to the Chinese Communist Party to its confirmed surveillance of U.S. journalists. And his answers were so evasive, often misleading answers, and quite frankly, he left a room on both sides of the aisle full of skeptics as to just where this whole thing is going. In fact, some were wondering if it's time for a national ban of TikTok, which currently, by the way, has about 150 million monthly active users here in the United States. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is U.S. Representative Tim Walberg. He serves on the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, as well as the Committee on Education and Workforce. He represents the 5th Congressional District of Michigan. Congressman Walberg, great to see you. Welcome to the program.
Well, it's great to see you, Jody, and let me hasten to say we miss you.
Well, thank you so much. And by the way, Congressman Walberg, like myself, was a pastor before going to Congress, and he and I always had a great relationship in many regards, but certainly from that. So thank you for your stance on the word as well as your stance overall in Congress. Congressman, listen, I just completed a discussion with Congressman Randy Weber about the Parents' Bill of Rights. And before we get to TikTok, I understand that you authored a significant provision in that piece of legislation that passed today. So quickly tell us about that.
We did, Jody. It was we call it the Respect Kids Act. And it was a standalone bill. We felt that it should be part of the Parental Rights Act. And I think you understand me, Jody, that to say parental rights is tough for me to say, because I don't think government gives parents rights. That came from God. That's our responsibility. We have legislation that would say that a parent who is not informed by their elementary or middle school that the child had asked for their pronouns to be changed or their name to be changed, or to give them help in gender transition, or to give them accommodations in a different bathroom or locker room than would go with their biological sex, that the parents had to be notified, or they would ultimately lose. The school would lose Title I funding. I thought of a valuable point to put through, and we did get it out of committee and into the bill as the package, as an amendment. And so that is part of the parental rights legislation that passed the House today.
That is fantastic. Thank you for your leadership on that. Greatly needed. And, this whole thing is just so much common sense. It's stunning to me how the Democrats oppose it with such emotion and passion. If we can shift gears, though, I do want to talk about the hearing yesterday, the TikTok hearing with the CEO, Shou Chu, and how he dodged so many questions, or he gave extremely evasive answers. For instance, he wouldn't even say with 100% certainty that TikTok could resist orders from the Chinese Communist Party if they were to invade Taiwan, for example. Would TikTok be boosting pro-Beijing content? It just evades these kind of questions. There were so many questions about the Uyghurs and the decline to answer these type of atrocities taking place in China. So just give me your overall 30,000-foot view of the hearing yesterday.
Well, having an opportunity to see CEO Chu up close and personal, type of guy that you would say be a great neighbor, nice guy, articulate, but he was not telling the truth. And when you have 150 million people who are subscribers to and users of TikTok, the impact that can have in a country, even if it were just a normal American-produced platform, is tremendous. The type of impact it has on young people's lives, it has on suicide and gender manipulation and all the rest that can go on through there. Well, TikTok has a problem because it's connected to the Chinese Communist Party. And why do I say that? And that's why I tried to get in my questioning of Mr. Chu, him to respond to what the Chinese Communist Party said. In fact, a representative from the Commerce Department over there said that no way could a sale or a transfer of a Chinese affiliated company take place outside of the Chinese law, which meant it couldn't take TikTok, that is under the auspices of a Chinese company, and move it to a wholly owned American company. It just couldn't happen. And so I asked Mr. Chu if he agreed or disagreed with the Chinese Communist Party representative who gave that statement in the Wall Street Journal that very day. He wouldn't answer that. So I had to say I would assume, based upon that you agree with the Chinese Communist Party, because you're unwilling to state that, no, they're wrong, which has implications if you were to say that. But if that is true, what China is saying about a company like TikTok, then we need to be concerned. Their algorithms, Jody, the algorithms that they have in place rival anything of any platform in the world today, in fact, go beyond. They're capable with facial recognition and other things to set apart people and categorize them and put them in contact with messages and other individuals and other videos and other pictures and other content that could change their lives. And China understands that America will be beat, if we're going to be beat as world power, from the inside. So if you can divide this country, and you can do it on a social media platform like TikTok, and do it so well that you can pick out people and what they're interested in, move in that direction, wow, That's dangerous to the health and safety.
Congressman, we've got about 30 seconds here left, and let me just ask you this: you're bringing some phenomenal information. Do you consider TikTok a national security risk?
I do, and that's going to be tough. We'll have to educate the people, and what you're doing is helping that. Educate people to understand this is not just a benign social media platform that guys like me don't understand, and my grandkids do.
Absolutely.
This is
Representative Tim Walberg, thank you so much for joining us on Washington Watch. It's an honor. Thank you.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
All right, friends, coming up, an Iranian missile strike targeted U.S. base in northeast Syria earlier today. We'll be joined by our own General Boykin right after the break.
Let's be real, retirement is expensive, and inflation is making it even harder with the cost of everything going up from pet food to a dozen eggs. Wouldn't it be great if the cost of your health care could go down? Well, Medishare 65 Plus is $99 a month for ages 65 to 74. And for many with Medicare Parts A and B looking at other options, that's 50% or more saved per month. No gimmicks. It's $99 a month, and you can use any Medicare-approved doctor or facility, and you get 24/7 access to telehealth from the convenience of your home. Better yet, Medishare is a Christian nonprofit organization. It's a community that'll pray for you and encourage you. And since we've cut out the middleman, you get to keep the savings. Call now. You can learn more about Medishare 65 Plus. Here's the number, 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE, 833-45-BIBLE.
Welcome to Apologetics with Carl Kirby. Christ's resurrection is by far the most important event in church history. Is it any wonder why skeptics make it a prime target for their attacks? One false idea that's used to cast doubt on Christ's literal resurrection is called the swoon theory. This states that Jesus didn't really die after the crucifixion, but was in a coma. After being laid in the tomb, the coolness combined with the burial spices supposedly revived him, and his disciples just thought he was risen from the dead. But for this to be true, Jesus not only had to survive severe flogging and crucifixion by trained Roman executioners, but he also had to work his way out from the layers of bandages covering his body, push away a stone weighing 2,000 pounds, and fight off Roman soldiers standing guard. Did not happen. Christ is risen. Next time, we'll discuss another false theory about the resurrection. For more information, go to hopetools.net and stay bold.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. We appreciate you plugging in this evening. All right, yesterday we had an Iranian missile strike that targeted the U.S. base in northeastern Syria. In fact, that took place earlier today, which was one day after a self-destructing drone killed one U.S. contractor, injured another contractor, and injured 5 U.S. service members in the region. Well, according to the Pentagon, today's attack hit an American base southeast of the Syrian province of Dar al-Zor. And though it included a lot of rockets, fortunately, I understand there were no confirmed casualties. But the big question right now is, what threats do these attacks pose in light of the recent efforts in the region to try to de-escalate the tensions? Well, I know of no one better to discuss this topic with than who is joining me now, FRC's Executive Vice President, General Jerry Boykin. He spent the last 4 years of his 36-year military career as a Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, and of course he was an original member of the Army's Delta Force. General Boykin, always an honor to have you on the program. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Well, Jody, it's a privilege to be on with you.
Well, listen, like I said, I don't know anyone I'd rather try to get information to on this. This is just pretty breaking news. So if you would, General, first just kind of give our viewers and listeners a basic rundown of what's taking place this week and where we stand right now.
Well, as you laid out there, elements of the IRGC, or the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, or at least affiliates of the IRCG, did just what you said. They used drones to actually, they didn't fire any shots, but what they did do was they crashed these drones into the base where we had U.S. citizens, and that's where the one contractor was killed and 6 or 7 other people were wounded. And then today, after we retaliated last night, today they fired again. This time they fired missiles into another one of our bases. No one was hurt as far as we know, but any way you look at this is a bad situation that we have going on right now, Jody, and I think it has everything to do with Xi's visit and how that emboldened the Iranians and in many ways restored their confidence.
Well, you're going exactly where I want to go. I really